Hey Julio, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. I see you just posted this question while I was wrapping up 4 minutes ago. So your question is about how to drive meaningful engagement in large groups where there is no psychological safety yet in 60 minutes. So first of all, if an organization doesn't have psychological safety, then that's, I think, one bigger issue that you might not be able to solve in 60 minutes. But I often think of how can we create psychological safety in our session. So let's talk about this in the next 2 minutes. I actually created a whole workshop called From Crickets to Connected, where if you ever experienced this, you ask a question and then you get crickets, you get tumbleweeds, nobody responds, nobody wants to unmute. To me, that's a big red flag that there is no psychological safety present. People don't feel safe to speak up. They don't even feel safe to ask a question. And for that to be happening more often, we need to design the experience in a way that we're building on top of each other. The reason why I have the campfire behind me is because to me, if we're asking people to do something uncomfortable, if we're asking them to engage and really step outside of the comfort zone, whatever that is for each participant, for some of them it's unmuting themselves, for others is turning on their camera, or just generally engaging with the content, we need to make sure that we build it step by step. Like we can't hold up a big log, put a lighter under it and expect it to catch fire. The first thing we need to do is start with something that is really easy and not so much outside of people's comfort zones. So what I usually do in my sessions is I'll have something planned that asks every single participant to engage within the first few minutes, like ideally immediately after they sign in. And as you know, with Zoom or Butter, any virtual meeting platform, people click the link at different times. So some people show up a little bit early, some show up a little bit later, and you want to make sure that you have something for them to do as they're signing in. Because if we start with engagement, then it's much easier to increase that engagement over time rather than saying, let's just wait until everybody has arrived and inviting them to, or giving them the option to disengage. And there you have to work a lot harder. The second thing I want to share, and I know my time has already run out, so I'll be brief. And if there's a follow-up question, I can go deeper into that framework. But I have this what I call the inclusive debrief framework, and it's kind of the elaborate version of think, pair, share. You're going to have people engage a lot more if we ask them the same or a slightly similar question several times and ask them to think about it in different ways. So often I have people think about an answer, write down the answer for themselves, maybe even on a piece of paper, then send them to a breakout room where they're shared in the small group, then come back to the main group where they share something in the chat, and only then I'm going to ask them to unmute and elaborate. And the great thing is when you see comments in the chat, you can say, oh, I see that Julio, you wrote this. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? So they've already engaged a little bit. Now we're asking them to engage a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. So by the end, you can actually have psychological safety built in a session if you make sure that people feel seen, people feel heard. And I know 60 minutes is really short, so you might not go really, really deep. You might not go to a point where it's like the most engaged meeting if you're starting from like 0 or maybe even below 0. But it will be hopefully getting you on the right track. All right. That's the last video for now. I will see what other questions come in.